Let's check this rubric out. So there are two ways that you can access the rubric. One is by clicking the link that will lead you to the Google Doc of the rubric. And the other way is to download the document itself, so then you would have it saved on your computer. Whichever way is fine, whichever you prefer is fine. I have it open in Google Docs, so let's go ahead and check it out there. So just a little bit of background on what a rubric is, if you've never encountered that before. Essentially, it's a way of assessing a finished product. So in this case, a piece of writing, but it provides the different levels of success and the different markers or characteristics for each level of success, right? So here we in the first row at the top, so the criteria here, and then I have the criteria for we have title, introduction, and conclusion. You scroll down, we have focus and organization. We have connections, critical thinking, and analysis. And then attention to writing quality and style. So for an exceptional piece of writing, all of the stuff that's in this column, on down the line, those are the markers for an exceptional piece of writing, okay? Just as anything in the ready column, so anything, on down the line in the ready column are the markers for a paper that would be considered ready. And then anything in the not ready column, the markers that would indicate that the paper is not ready yet. So just a re-emphasis, or to emphasize it again, of the grading system in our class. We're not working with a traditional point system, right? And this is my attempt to kind of get us off get us off of fixating on the grade or the points and recalibrating our focus so that it's on the process of becoming better writers, right? So in any case, you have the option to revise. However, if you're in the not ready yet category, that means that you will need to revise. And then I'll indicate what you should focus on in your revision. But anybody who is in the not ready yet, it will say revise, not ready yet. That means that you need to revise. If you're in the ready category, it means that there are some things in there that could be worked on, but the paper is essentially ready. You met the expectations. Again, there could be some things that could be improved, but overall you met the expectations of the project. And then the exceptional category means that the writer has surpassed the expectations of the project, right? They've really demonstrated that they have a vast understanding of the different concepts that we've been working with in this class, and they've demonstrated that in their writing. Now, if you are in the not ready yet category, you still have the option to revise and make it into the exceptional category, just as if you choose to revise, if you're in the ready category, to revise to try to make it exceptional, you can do that. So really, anybody has the potential to make their paper an exceptional piece of writing, but some of us might need to dedicate a little bit more time in doing that, right? But let me just walk you through. I'll focus primarily on the exceptional, because again, that's what we should be striving for, right? So for title, introduction, and conclusion. So for an exceptional paper, the title is creative and artfully alludes to the main focus of the essay. So the title isn't just a throwaway piece. The writer has demonstrated they've titled their paper creatively, and it gives some kind of indication of what the paper focuses on, and they do it in a very creative and artful way. Their introduction is well developed and engaging and inventive, does not rely on simple or unoriginal conventions. In other words, does not employ conventions from the 5-paragraph essay structure. So some of the conventions of a 5-paragraph essay there are three ways that you can fall prey to that, and one is to begin with a question, the other is to begin with a startling statistic or fact, and the other is to begin with some kind of quotation you found online. Don't do that. That's cheesy. It's a carryover of the 5-paragraph essay structure. Instead, try to make choices with your introduction. What's the best way to introduce your readers to this topic? In many of your essays, a lot of the feedback I provided, I recommend that you start off with an anecdote or an example, some sort of narrative example that can lead into your discussion of what your most important value is. But try to think a little bit more about how you can introduce your essay without relying on those simple or unoriginal 5-paragraph essay carryovers. For your conclusion, conclusion effectively addresses the so what question, enabling the reader to understand the significance of the essay's main focus. It is inventive and may gracefully bookend the essay by returning to a theme, idea, or example introduced earlier in the essay. So this is one of the challenges in our paper, to have a conclusion that addresses the so what question. And just to clarify, when we say that, we mean that we have a conclusion that gives some sort of indication of why this stuff matters, why it's important, why should we care about these things. So that's what we call the so what question, or addressing that so what question, right? And this will enable your readers to have a greater understanding of your essay's significance. By bookending, this is just a way of saying that your paper has a kind of a nice full circle feel. So the reason we call it a bookend, because back in the olden days, people used to have these things in their houses called books. And on the bookshelves, in order to keep the books from falling off, you needed to have something to keep them up, right? So on either end of the row of books, you'd have what's called a bookend, and they matched usually. So this is just a metaphor for having something that you begin your essay with, but then returning to it later so that your reader can understand it in a new way. So a good way of doing this, if you start off by introducing, a story, from your high school experience or whatever the case is, you can return to that story so that your reader can have a better understanding of it by the end of their essay. So that's what we mean by a bookend. So focus and organization. So all of the stuff in here deals with your essay's main focus and how you've organized. So an exceptional paper, so if we're looking at the exceptional, the main focus or thesis statement is well defined and supported throughout the essay. Now in this essay project, we're not necessarily having a clear thesis statement. So if you're like, I don't have a thesis statement, that's not necessarily important for this essay, but you should have a clear main focus, meaning your essay has a clear main point. Your reader's not left guessing what the point of your paper is. It's pretty clear and supported throughout, right? So that means all the main points connect to that main focus. There's nothing that's wasted or seems irrelevant. Everything helps to define and support that main point throughout, or main focus throughout. The main points are treated as a unified progression of ideas rather than disconnected items in a list. All main points contribute to the overall focus of the essay. So this is something, in order to treat our points as a unified progression of ideas, we need to think about how each point is connected to the rest, right? So how does one point lead into the next point, and how does that point lead into the following point, on down the line, so that you're working your way to the development of an idea overall, right? So it's a unified idea, not just a bunch of random different points that aren't really connected. And if we jump over to the next columns here, so if your paper is in the ready category, in many instances, main points are treated as a unified progression of ideas, but may fall prey to the listing effect in minor ways. So what we mean by the listing effect is that you're just treating your points in your essay as just items in a list. It's not very clear how one point connects to the one that follows and how that point connects to the one that follows. It's sort of just a bunch of random examples that aren't really cohesive or unified, right? So that's what we mean by the listing effect. So an exceptional paper is going to treat the ideas as a unified progression of ideas. Everything is connected and advancing toward supporting that main focus. So continuing on, for focus and organization, writer displays a strong consideration of effective and creative organization techniques, effective use of purposeful paragraphs to separate ideas. So a lot of this stuff is what we are reading about from Habits of the Creative Mind, especially in that essay called On Structure, right? So this is the one that used John McPhee as an example, and Rebecca Skloot and how she went about writing her book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and the different techniques that she used in order to find the most effective way of organizing her book. So I want you guys to employ those strategies as you're working on your draft, so that you too are trying to develop effective organization techniques to see, okay, how can I play around with the structure a little bit and see if this is the best organization for my paper. If it's not, then that's what you're going to want to focus on, right? So an exceptional paper is going to have effective use of purposeful paragraphs to separate ideas. So that means that each paragraph, it's very well defined. Each paragraph focuses on a main point. Each paragraph is organized. Each paragraph doesn't have any wasted sentences. Everything is contributing to that meaning. But it's clear that the writers really thought about how each paragraph is structured and what's contained in that paragraph or each of those paragraphs. An exceptional paper will also have transitions between ideas are sophisticated and graceful. This goes back to this idea of treating the ideas, up here, as a unified progression of ideas, right? So to transition from one idea to the next is going to help with that. Connections, critical thinking, and analysis. So this is getting into what we would call development, the development of your ideas, but also just the way that you're demonstrating critical thinking and making connections and analyzing these different points. So an exceptional paper, this is the category we're looking at. The student draws insightful, compelling, and original connections among ideas, observations, and experiences, thoroughly explains points' significance. So to draw insightful, compelling, and original connections means that you're pointing out how your experiences are connected to your value, how those experiences have influenced that value, but the connections that you're making between these things, they offer insight into your own thinking. Compelling means that they're interesting and people want to read or learn about. And original means that they're something that maybe we haven't really seen before. It's not just kind of reiterating things that have already been said or done in the past, right? So this, of course, is among your ideas, observations, and experiences. Student uses relevant examples from a variety of sources, including personal experience, observation, and prior knowledge. So this is important to have relevant examples from a variety of sources. And in this case, you weren't required to have like outside sources in the sense of other books or essays or things like that. But that's obviously something that you could do. But your example should come from a variety of sources, at least in the sense of your own personal experiences, observations, and prior knowledge. Student uses any source material in thought-provoking ways, advances and complicates the writer's thinking. So what this means, if you are using source material like an essay or a video or something like that, you're using it in a way that advances or complicates your thinking, but also it's thought-provoking. It has a very definitive purpose in your paper. It's not just thrown in there to take up space. If you did have quotations, in the exceptional category, there would be exemplary integration of quotations if incorporated, clear distinction between the words and ideas of the writer and source material, context, background information is provided for quotations, introduced with signal phrases properly cited according to MLA guidelines. So again, if you did incorporate quotations, that you have an exemplary integration of these quotations. You're using signal phrases, meaning you're introducing the quotes according to so-and-so, and then you have your quotation. So-and-so states, and then you have your quotation. Those are what we call signal phrases. I'm actually going to end this video. I'm just realizing that we're approaching 15 minutes, and I want to make sure that it's not too long. So I'm going to go ahead and end it there, but then we'll pick up where we left off. So stay tuned, y'all.